am still in the Labour Party, but my friend Lola Moran, who's a Liberal Democrat MP in Oxford, just DM'd me and said, like, could you push this tweet where she's saying that cooperation between Liberal Democrats and Greens is a good thing. And I said, yeah, this is a sign of good grown-up politics. And the truth is, I didn't really look into it very much, and I was endorsing that progressive, what we call a progressive alliance, progressive parties working together. They've then interpreted this as saying, there were some Labour people standing in the elections where I was saying vote for these people. And therefore against the Labour Party people. And if you say vote against the Labour Party people, you're excluded, right? You're out. Which I understand. I've been around the block. I understand the rules and whatever. But I was endorsing just the principle of, and they're trying to stretch it. Cooperation, progressive cooperation, and which I don't know why they was trawling through my tweets, because they could have read any article in The Guardian over the last 10 years and I'd have said exactly the same thing. And this is all the nuts. So they're stretching that, and we'll see whether they want to stretch it so far. I kicked up a fuss about it because I have access to newspapers and media people and people close to the Labour leadership and whatever else. Because I just thought, I'm getting this right, and it was sort of a slight shock to me, after 40 years of membership of the Labour Party. And I just thought, well, I can stand up for myself, in public and make a fuss about it. It's all the other poor people who, they kick me out. I'll be sort of mildly upset, but I'll carry on doing the things I want to do. It's these people who have their lifeblood being in the Labour Party. They campaign, they stand as councillors, they deliver the leaflets, they do all of this stuff, and they're trying to remake the Labour Party, right? The people, there's a clique in charge of the Labour Party now, who are the factions from the right of the party, who are now in charge of all of this governance and discipline and whatever, and they're trying to remake it in their own image because they know they can't get their candidates elected in future because the Labour Party is still a kind of centre-left, soft-left, orientated organisation. So they're trying to make it a hostile environment for people like me and others because, we wouldn't vote for their candidate. And it's systematic and it's industrial and it should never be allowed to happen. All of that, of course, parties need professionalism, they need discipline, they need borders. I understand all of that. But that can't be done in the interests of one tiny faction who have now got control. The foxes have taken over the chicken coop, and they're gonna kill anything that stands in their way. And that's just it's just bad for the party because you need a breath. You need, and I think I often see the sort of, if you want to call it the hard right and the hard left of the Labour Party being very similar, quite intolerant of other views. And I'm a pluralist. I learn when I listen to all views and get all views and soak those up and then develop my thinking. And then you see the world in the same way as, in terms of reality, because you're listening to different voices. So I want the party to go back to that broad-based kind of, plural, tolerant, respectful, listening kind of thing. And, my thing will be a little test case along the way on that.
I think that just isn't what the Labour Party is at the moment, which is a real shame. So when you go to Labour conference and you ask someone, are they having a nice time? And they say no. It's like, well, why are you here? You've taken time off work to come and have a genuine shouting match with someone who you're seemingly in the same team as, etc. Which I think is actually maybe to the detriment of your work for a progressive alliance. Is that the left, people on the left can't stand each other, and they work. It's so kind of small time. It's like inter-party factionalism instead of just kind of sucking it up and becoming a coherent set of policies for government.
I think since the peak of the membership, which was I think about 560,000 in 2017, it's down now to about 390. So that's nearly 200,000 members.
And that's a victory.
Absolutely.
And get the rich donors in to make up that, which they're doing, to be fair.
Yeah, they are.
But that goes back to that. Well, how do you change the country if you're reliant on the whims of rich donors who aren't going to be aligned to the things that those members want? Now, there's always the out of kilter thing between members people who join political parties are always going to be more extreme than the middle voter, the swing voter you're trying to aim for.
And the MPs,
Yeah, and there's always a tension there. But that tension's got to be managed in a kind of as I say, in a respectful, tolerant kind of way, not in a kind of shove those out of the way, just get the rich bastards in and we'll do whatever they want.
Do you think it's partially a product of regret or a mistake that since sort of Blair and maybe even to an extent Miliband, basically they get Corbyn, they get McDonnell, and they go, you know what, we cannot allow that. to happen again, and we are actually going to pursue like aggressive factionalism. We are actually going to pursue aggressive a purge of different factions of the party, because there's no way in our world we can allow this to happen again.
So I think they suffered a near-death experience, or two. Firstly, through Ed Miliband, who beat David Miliband, who was the chosen person, and then Ed. They would say politically, because he wasn't, he didn't kind of defer to New Labour and say it was wonderful all the time, and tried to move the agenda on, and then he changed the membership rules and let a lot of, allowed a lot of people to join to vote for Corbyn. So I fear Ed is their target more than Corbynism, but I think you're absolutely right. They are dead certain that their number one priority is to never allow the Labour Party to be captured by anything like Corbynism, right? And I wasn't a Corbynite. I always described myself as being interested in the wave of Corbynism, the energy, the young people, the ideas. I thought the surfer was pretty rubbish, to be honest. I don't think he was a good leader. He never wanted to be leader, and a lot of those people couldn't face up to the fact that he didn't want to be leader and couldn't lead and didn't know how to do it, right? So that always seemed like a car crash to me. But you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So what were the conditions of Corbynism? Why did so many young people or people across age spectrums feel so disinterested in politics, feel so insecure, saw so much hope in that politics? And then you build off of that. And that's what Starmer said he was going to do. That's what's interesting. He said, he stood on a kind of Corbynism without Corbyn ticket. And then as soon as he got elected, kicked the ladder away and said, no, we're heading off on this right-wing charge, on that kind of purge of everyone who doesn't believe in that, who doesn't believe in the things that I said I stood for in my leadership election campaign, and that's why you voted for me. So it feels quite cynical to me, and going back to your kind of, how does that pan out in an election? Well, all this is going to come back to him, isn't it? This is why I don't think the next election's in the bag for Labour at all, because they don't have much to say. They haven't got much of a platform. They're saying everything's terrible, but not promising any kind of substantial policy detail to change anything. And there's Starmer, with that track record, having said that Jeremy Corbyn's his best friend, having stood on all of those platforms, both physically with Jeremy, and in terms of policy terms, of being Mr. Second Referendum, of representing all of those people he represented as a barrister and a QC, and all those very, very laudable campaigns at which are going to look bonkers when the Tories misrepresent them. So who is this person? What is he? What does he stand for? Can you trust this person, given he moves from this to this to this? So all of this is going to come back in, and I think it's going to be a very interesting campaign, and I'm not sure Labour has the intellectual and cultural robustness to stand up to it.
I don't know about you, Ed, but I get the impression that Neil doesn't think he's going to win the Labour Party for much
Well, definitely not now.
It's not in my hands. They will meet in a basement, a bit like this, and they will decide.
It's actually this room.
It is actually around the corner.
Those cameras aren't rolling.
Making notes.